This is the OverReaction podcast.
It's all the feels.
I usually don't put up a virtual background. Is that okay?
It's fine. This episode is brought to you by
Liquid Death, which I assumed was some sort of hardcore alcoholic beverage until I read the label.
Genius marketing. Absolutely.
I moved to the Soda Stream.
Oh, did
make
you?
make my own home brew. Yeah.
Ooh. And then he gets coffee. Oh, I just kidding. I got a good friend up here. He's all into Creo brew. So he has like this high-end coffee maker, and it's not coffee. It's like this. You roast cacao beans, like the chocolate beans, right? And then so it makes like super high-end, like dark chocolate, whatever. I'm not into chocolate, but I'm sure the antioxidants
There's a shot
as well. But yeah,
I'm sure you could do it with chia seeds too.
Yeah, that would.
I know that gets your motor running.
I tried that crap for a while. People are like, "Oh, dude, you got to make this." Yeah, vegans, dude. I don't know. Like they don't get enough good fats in their brain or whatever. Like the stuff they think is good, I can't get my head around it. But they're like, you got to make this pudding out of chia seeds. So you soak the chia seeds and it makes it like really thick. It's basically like trying to convince you, like tapioca pudding, let's be honest, isn't like the greatest pudding in the world, right?
No. It is pretty good though. It's pretty good though.
I don't know, man.
Is that a white person thing? Chris, is that a white person thing?
I was about to say Shawn looks like a guy who would like tapioca pudding.
Shawn's also the guy with only ketchup on a hot dog and tons of mayo on a sandwich.
I do love mayo on a sandwich, but spicy mayo preferably.
Yeah, spicy mayo. So anyways, I got this chia, because I do like chia and flax, whatever. And
I know you do.
I do. Hey, don't knock regular. Don't knock being regular. And here, so I made this chia pudding, and you put a little like stevia in it or whatever. Dude, it's instantaneous gag reflex. Like you put it in, you try to swallow it, and you're like. So I was.
Isn't that what most of the stuff you eat is like? I mean, don't you just have to push through that in the interest of longevity and health?
No, man, I do tons of just eggs and beef and stuff like that. I do some leafy greens and stuff. I just don't do like soda and sugar and that. So I don't. Yeah.
Okay.
It was interesting. I watched this. Someone put this. I don't know if it was on Instacracker or Tic Tac or whatever it is.
Wait, is that Instagram for me?
It could be. So, but it showed these babies young, and they were trying to give them. They were giving them like trying to give them like broccoli and like vegetables, and then others, but then they would try to give them like eggs or like a piece of fish or chicken. Every time they gave them chicken, fish, eggs, whatever, babies would eat it. Tried to give them broth every time. They're like, what the?
Yeah.
What are you trying to give me? So it's almost like you have to force your kids to eat when they're really young. Like the body knows what the body needs, right? So anyway.
Gotcha.
Speaking of, Chris, you and I have complained a lot about every place that has a good spicy chicken sandwich. It might taste good, but it's never really spicy.
Yeah.
So I was up at Deer Valley yesterday, shredding the trails, and I had a buddy. You guys, have you met Al? I don't know.
I've never met him, no.
Anyway, so he's kind of our interim CFO, and he likes to ride. So we're up there riding, and rain starts coming in. So we're like, oh, let's go buy some super overpriced Deer Valley food.
Yeah.
I mean, it tastes really good. So they had this Nashville hot chicken sandwich. Like, yeah, I've heard that a billion times before.
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, okay, I'll get that. Let's see. They had the normal. They don't have mild. It's like normal, medium, and then like really hot. I'm like, I want the really hot. And the waiter's like, yeah, you sure? I'm like,
Okay.
just because I look like a gringo doesn't mean I eat like a gringo. Like,
Yeah.
so they're like, okay, bring it out. I could tell by the look. They're bringing it up. I'm like, ooh, okay.
Okay.
And Chris, they do a dry rub. Not that I tell you, when it's real wet and like saucy, it's usually not that good. You're like, what did you do? It's like 75 pounds of sugar on that. Like, don't dump it down. No, it was a dry rub, and it had that like deep ruby, like this is gonna hurt tonight. Get the witch hazel ready, right? And not just that, they had diced jalapenos, not the stewed, like just diced. Dude, that thing was fire.
Okay, that's good to know.
Amazing. Big sliced pickles on it.
Mm-hmm.
Not the sugar pickles, the good,
Yeah.
the
Sour
good
dill.
yeah, the good sour kosher.
Yeah.
A kind of a multiple different kind of cabbage.
Yeah.
But not like the it was kind of interesting is didn't have the sweet like Miracle Whip crap in it. It was, like a real Southern slaw.
Sure.
Dude, it was worth the $24, man. It was
That's good to know. That's good to know.
Dude, you go to seriously get up to Deer Valley. It's the Royal Street, whatever that puts it on, and dude. Yeah.
Nice.
So what's going on, guys?
What's
the latest? Chris,
yeah, you're a connector now, Chris. Talk to us.
What's going on with you, Chris?
All right.
You've got you're running a hostel, right? You got
halfway house.
Living with you. You just switched jobs. Let's do that, and then Shawn, let's jump. See what's going on.
Yeah. So I started with a new startup called Kenect. They basically help dealerships and communicate with their customers, hence the name Kenect, and making sure that they're able to communicate through them through SMS texting and things like that. But they also process payments through that. They also help them do more general marketing or broadcast messaging through that channel. They also have reputation management where, people come in and give us a 5-star review, and they're able to manage all those reviews, and we've got some analytics and things such as that. So it's a really fun time to join the company. They've been around for a few years, but they're really hitting their stride right now, and they're trying to figure out, hey, what does the next evolution of the company and the product look like? And so they went out and hired a product team, of which I'm a part. Their new chief product officer, he's someone I've worked with before, so he had reached out saying, hey, this is the assignment given to me, and we've done this before essentially at other places. So he said, you want to go do it again? And so I thought, yeah, it'd be a lot of fun to go do that. And so that's what's new for me right now, starting a new job. I'm a week and a half into it, just trying to figure out what's going on with the product today, and hang on and try to manage that, while also trying to keep an eye to the future of what we're trying to do here also, and also just trying to navigate the craziness of the world that's going on around us. Everything from attempted assassinations, internet going out, people can't fly places, hospitals can't give care, and all of that.
Dude, CrowdStrike, man. I've been trolling all my friends on PCs. I've been sending them that meme I sent you guys.
I've been telling people, hey, CrowdStrike stock is down like $90 from market close yesterday. Might be a good time to buy.
I think it's got a little bit more basement to it than jump on it. Not like I condone day trading, but
yeah,
you never know, right?
Right.
Yeah, I'm gonna pull that up right now. Just so share it.
Chris, the first time you and Scott went through the new go-to-market exercise, the one thing I remember from that, you guys had your little war room.
Yeah, I remember
there at Task back in the day. The one thing I remember was that was right after the panorama photo had come out on the iPhone, And we
Yes.
took, like, you guys had
Oh my
a beautiful.
gosh.
Oh, hey.
That's what I'm trolling everybody with right now. And I have a guy that one of our AIs, outsourced AI guy, and he's going back and forth with me with PC. He said, I don't got to get a third mortgage on my house to get a new MacBook. I'm like, what kind of tin can are you living in, man?
Yeah.
Anyway, so Shawn, keep going, man.
Yeah, so they had their war room. The whiteboard looked like a scene from A Beautiful Mind. And I remember using that new panorama technology. We started the panorama with Chris on the left side, and then he crawled on the ground and made it over to the right side before I made it around with the panorama. So it looked like Chris had been cloned and was doing all kinds of experimental research.
Multiple places at once. We actually just recreated that photo.
Did you really?
Scott remembered it, and I was not going to bring it up. He's like, "Oh, Chris, we got to do the photo again." I was like, "Dang it!" So I'm crawling around on all fours as a brand new employee, humiliating myself up under the photo, and then, but no, it was fun. I totally remember that, and I remember being in that room because the company was growing. We didn't have enough office space, and so we took over a conference room. And so by the end of it, there were 4 or 5 of us in one conference room, and that was our office. And it got sort of warm and musty in there.
Did you say musty or musky?
That's the BDYY fragrance for me. Hey, is my screen still sharing? I got to figure out.
Yes,
I got to figure out how you guys use Zoom. How do you get this thing to stop sharing?
Well, there should be a button right next to the end button on the toolbar that says stop sharing.
Normally it does, but it's not.
Huh.
I mean, I like this chick on the screen, and
I was wondering how long it was going to stay there.
I got to get rid of it.
I was thinking, clearly we're not giving Jeremy a good enough reaction. He's just going to leave it there until we really, really laugh about it.
There you go.
Hey, there you go.
Left.
There you go.
Yeah, they changed the UI on it. You used to have it there. You actually have to go into the window that you're sharing and actually do it there now.
Oh, I see.
Yes. Come on, Zoom.
Where are you at? Are you at home in Midway? Midway's where you're at? Oh, I probably shouldn't say that. You can cut that out. I don't want to dox you.
I tell everybody we're somewhere near. I just tell everyone Park City because if I like Midway or Heber, like I don't know what that means.
Yeah, it's true.
Yeah,
it's fine.
Yeah,
you know you and your glitzy bourgeois family, whoever I'm talking about. You come up to Deer Valley and look down upon the unwashed masses.
Right.
Valley, so.
Right.
Speaking of that, dude, I really hope that Governor Newsom or somebody else turns around California. In fact, I want California to have a better governor than Utah has a better governor, because I want the flow to go back out.
Did you hear in his State of the State speech at the beginning of the year? He said, hey, look, growth is our number one challenge. I'm talking about Governor Cox. Growth is our number one challenge. And as much as I would love to build a wall and make California pay for it, that's not a realistic option.
Yeah, that was so good. Yeah, it was so good. So, any you guys got an electric vehicle yet?
No.
I would love one, but now, of course, I'm in the oil and gas industry, and I'd get beat up if I had one.
I think, EVs, I guess if you live like in a big metro area, it makes sense.
Totally.
What I don't understand is the lack of innovation in hybrids. That's really where the innovation should go, man.
Yeah.
Why do you think that?
I've seriously considered getting a hybrid.
Hybrid truck?
Well, truck, car, something, right? For that fuel mileage. I actually thought about getting a daily driver in a hybrid. I've got my truck, keep it as is, but yeah, I think a hybrid is definitely a sweet spot that we could invest more in.
Yeah, I mean, it's the best of both worlds. Like I just saw a video, a guy up in France, he pulls over and there's a guy with a, I don't know, it was a BMW or a Saab or something like that, electric vehicle. On the back, he had strapped a diesel generator. He was charging it as he's driving up because he'd run out of juice. So, and that's basically a super ghetto version of a hybrid.
That's fair. Yeah, my brother-in-law took for his daughter and son-in-law took one from Texas to Utah, a Tesla, and he said, amazing car for around the metro area, but not a good long distance travel vehicle. He said that it's very good about telling you where the charging stations are, but they're in some pretty odd places, in some cases almost sketchy places. He'd be driving back to the backside of buildings and things like that as he was trying to complete a really long journey.
Yeah, and for us that live up here on the other side, just the thought of being trapped in a canyon, like someone can't just give me some juice out of their battery, right? Like with a vehicle, you could siphon, it's so portability, and that's the problem with electric vehicles. There's no portability of the power, zero.
Yeah.
Which for me, it just freaks me out. And then and a lot of people don't understand the physics of solar power. It's interesting. I was watching an interview with Elon Musk a couple of years ago. He was talking about Cybertruck and the reporter. And again, let's be honest, reporters, when it comes to intellectual prowess, they're at the absolute shallow end of the pool. Just, wow. They do the majority of them do almost no research or looking into anything, the subject that they're interviewing. They're handed a set of questions, and if there's some follow-up questions, you can see them just literally glitch, insert, change the card. So this reporter was talking to Elon about, oh, it's great. Like, look at all this, kind of opens up solar panels more on the top of the roof of the Cybertruck. You can go hundreds of miles back out into the, desert places and just recharge it during the day and then drive it back. And Elon had one of those. The great thing about Elon, he's a weird dude, all that other kind of stuff. He doesn't have any guile. Like, there's no like him thinking, like, how do I need to phrase this to be politically correct or to make it? He just says it like, no, that physics. And he's like, you serious? And the reporter's like, well, yeah. It's like, do you have any idea how long it takes to charge a Cybertruck or an electric vehicle just with the little solar panels that would come on top? He said, oh, it's got to probably takes a while, like 6 or 8 hours. Like, you need to leave it on for 2 straight days.
Yeah.
Like, no, you can't. We're nowhere near. Well, and then the reporter's like, well, as solar panels become a lot more efficient, he's like, we've squeezed about all the efficiency you can. Like, you can't make the sunlight more concentrated than it is. And even if we had 100% of efficiency, we might improve charging by 10%. Like, we're just at a limit. Well, so it's just, you saw this person, their little Pollyanna world just kind of crumble, like, but I thought this was the answer to everything, and rainbows and unicorns, and no, it just got all shot out. It's a good thing this podcast doesn't make any money or it'd get demonetized, right?
Right.
Yeah, it's what's so interesting to me is why we don't leverage existing infrastructure. Like solar, I'm not for wind. If you look at the sheer amount of the hundreds of tons of concrete and steel that have to go into just establishing the base for a wind, I mean, the carbon production and energy that was required to do it just makes wind ridiculously unfeasible. There's no ROI to it. It kills off so many eagles and hawks and migratory birds and bats. It just doesn't. But solar's awesome. But what I don't understand is why municipalities, states, et cetera, instead of plowing under farmland and plowing under wilderness area to put solar farms, don't just use the massive amounts of real estate that already exists, which are lots of buildings and warehouses.
Yeah.
And
over parking lots.
You don't need to plow under nature.
Yeah.
To save the planet. You can just leave. I mean, the cities are already heat sinks, right? So if you look at cities that plant a huge amount of trees can reduce the actual temperature by 8 degrees centigrade or 72 degrees Fahrenheit. I'm kidding you. You know, 12 degrees Fahrenheit, whatever.
That conversion doesn't sound right.
Yeah, exactly. Hey, man, I work for the government. The math always checks out. That's what I don't get. So why do you guys think that is? Like, why in the world don't we just already use all this real estate that already exists? It's all unused. It's already a heat sink, which means it already absorbs so much heat anyway. I'm having a really hard time wrapping my head around that because it doesn't make any sense. Like, it's so much more expensive to go out to the country and just go through all the environmental reviews, plow under all the land, kill off every animal that's going to go under this 1,000-acre solar farm. Like, why not just, we have giant warehouses all over the place. Just put them on top of that. We have car parks or parking garages, buildings everywhere, big box retailers.
Yeah.
We already have it. It's already there.
Yeah, I'm not sure what the answer is. I think for part of it is, I don't have the answer for all of why that happens for all of the land out there, but probably part of it is that someone's not making money off of that land that they are plowing under.
Yes, that's true. But you're so much closer to the power generation, right?
Yeah,
Like,
I agree.
Closer to the grid when you're already in
much more efficient, right?
I don't know. Like, I have my tinfoil hat. I should have one on the show, and then when I get something that doesn't fit just with the normal understanding, just go, hang on a second.
An icon that just shows up. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Should put an emoji. Well, dude, Shawn, what are you up to now, man?
Well, after 25 years in tech, I took a job running marketing for a manufacturer in the oil and gas industry, making a product that, let's see, I've almost been here a year. So a year ago, I'd never even heard of. It's called a tubing anchor. It goes at the very bottom of all of those, 3,000, 5,000 foot rod pumps and holds the tubing in place to make them efficient. And it has been a breath of fresh air. It's been for a guy that's nearly 50, it's been a welcome change from B2B tech.
That's awesome. So tubing, so it's the one that goes down in the drilling rig actually puts down into the wherever they're fracking or drilling for oil, or actually.
Yeah, the drilling rig, and then they'll have a workover rig that'll have to replace them. You know, that those horse head pumps have a pump that goes down, a mile or two down there, and sort of at the bottom of what that is pumping in, there needs to be an anchor there. And they have built a pretty good little business off of a couple of innovations in that product. It's cool. It's fun to come to work and have a machine shop, operating right outside my window.
I love that stuff, man. If I could get back,
it's cool.
It's kind of interesting. Is my family, that's where we started, was in oil and gas. We ran an oil field trucking company, so we didn't do anything with like servicing or moving the pump jacks, at least not very, or guess you call them down here horsehead jacks. Canada, they just call them pump jacks. That's what we did. We took down the drilling rigs and we'd go put them up some other place. So it's
hard work, long days.
Yeah, super long days, and they get super creative with all the F-bombs and expletives. It's I've been called everything and used in when people are talking to me. I'm like, okay, that was a noun, that was a proper noun, that was a preposition. Okay, that's an adverb, adjective. That was definitely a dangling participle. So those truckers and rig hands and deckhands, man, they're so creative.
Yeah, no, and it's not just the field guys too. We contract with a retired petroleum engineer to help us make sure our stuff is technically accurate. Really fun guy, really great guy. There are several times in our meetings or our calls where we're like, I'm not sure you can say that because he gets pretty colorful himself.
Well, he knows his audience, right?
Yeah, exactly. Right.
So what's been the biggest difference that you find that you B2B world, marketing the B2B world, now you're in actual, true bread and butter foundation of the economy, manufacturing.
Yeah. So it's still B2B. I don't think I would have. I don't think my skills would translate all that well to a consumer focused company. But
I agree.
a couple of the thank you. A couple of the most interesting things is when it was a friend that connected me with this company. I said, "Look, guys, I don't know anything about your industry, but I'll put together some ideas," because they wanted to. They had mostly built the business through word of mouth, and so a week later, I put together some ideas, and they're like, "Hey, we like this. Would you consider a full-time position?" And I said, "Yeah." And then I was asking them questions from the software world, like, "So, what's your burn rate?" And they were like, "Burn rate?" And I would say, like, "So who are your main investors?" And they're like, "We make products, we sell them, and we make money. That's how we keep the business running."
You mean
So
a normal business?
Yeah,
I know.
an actual
So
business.
so I was
You were the one
introduced.
that was out. You're like, hey, the rest of the world outside of tech just kind of runs this way.
I know. So that was pretty funny. I tell my boss all the time that he introduced me to this concept called profit and margin, because in software it's a different game. It's I'm an investor. I'm going to place a bet on 50 different companies, knowing that 48 of them won't turn out very well, but the barriers to entry are so low in software that it's okay. And I know one of them will go big, or that's what I'm planning on, and we'll make our money back.
So
And
so the biggest questions that I have, and I know Chris is thinking the same thing. So your office parties, any samurais or Oompa Loompas or anything from Marvel or Wars Track, or Star
none of that. No costume galas. No powder blue tuxedo rentals. I'm talking about all the things that I had to do in the past. No, none of that.
any coffins.
No
massive HR violations.
None of that. None of that. It's but we do have different things in a more blue collar environment. We have fist fights sometimes out in the shops. We have all kinds of interesting, colorful reasons that I can't be at work and stuff like that. So you lose some and you win some.
How many? Oh, dude, I remember the randomized drug tests. How are those?
I can't get into that.
Do you have because we had a sign outside that we had to put it outside the shop, number of days without an incident. Do you have that?
Oh, on the safety side,
yeah.
we don't have we don't have a day counter, but it is a big deal, for Chris and I, most of our careers, you might get some carpal tunnel or something like that. But this is like, you could lose a hand if you're not careful. So yeah, there's much more of a focus on that. That's another big difference.
And have you had to go? So obviously you go to your factory. Have you had to go out to the field and actually see stuff deployed or anything like that yet?
Yeah, I mean, you don't get onto the well sites really. We sell most of our products through dealers, through pump shops that supply Chevron and Exxon and Mobil and all those folks. Okay. So those are the places that we go to. Those are mostly our customers.
Nice.
Yeah. Do you think they'd let me out on a well site? Do I look like they would let me out there?
Well, we had something that we did is that the CEO.
With your safety Birkenstocks.
Yeah. Put some socks on under there. So my dad,
you were saying?
he made the CFO. Like CFO was this little great guy, but kind of a mousy looking dude. He made him go out and actually ride once a year for a week. He had to go ride with the drivers and act as a swamper, which is like chaining stuff up. He had to go
Yeah.
You have to understand. You don't get to dictate on high what happens unless you really understand it and live it a
That's
bit.
great.
Yeah.
That's great. Very valuable. Very valuable.
Yeah, you got to get out there to Vernal, man.
Oh, I was just in Vernal. Absolutely. That's where one of our offices is. We have
Oh,
offices. Yeah, we have offices in Oklahoma City, Midland, Vernal,
South Dakota, North Dakota.
Williston, North Dakota. Yeah. Yep. Haven't been out there, but we're planning the trip to North Dakota for probably September.
Those are my kind of people. Man. So a little bit different. What do you guys do for vacations? I know Chris is a big time traveler, man. Like he
Yeah.
and I are on opposite sides of what makes for a good vacation.
Yeah.
Chris, where you been to and what are you doing next?
Yeah. It's been a while since I've gone on a quote unquote official vacation, but the last one was probably around spring break timeframe. I took my oldest nephews and nieces with me. We went down to Florida to do a bunch of snorkeling and swimming and things like that. And so we spent a few days down there in the Florida Keys.
How many MAGA flags on the beaches? I hear that really ticks some people off if they see a MAGA flag or a American flag on the beach.
I can't say I saw a single MAGA flag or anything.
Impossible. It's been all over my social media. Lies, fake.
This was back in April too, so things weren't quite as heated as they are right now.
Okay, gotcha.
So that's what I did for the last, like what I would call the last big vacation. And of course, there's always, we're accustomed to the business travel, so I've done a bunch of business travel in between to different places. I don't have the next big one lined up, but there are times though that I just go somewhere close and just want to be out in nature and away from everything, right? And there are definitely places, thankfully where we live, out here in the mountains, we can get away pretty far pretty quickly.
It's true. We need to get an Israel trip set up and go.
I am down for that,
dude. Yeah, I've got to get back there. We have a couple clients over there, so I need to use them.
Oh, nice
excuse. And right now the travel's cheap.
Makes sense.
No, we won't go down to the Dead Sea area. I mean, we'll do Dead Sea. We won't go down to the Negev.
Right.
Awesome area down to Gulf Eilat, which is super, super cool. We'd probably stay like Jerusalem, do some Tel Aviv action, get up to the north, go see, dodge some Hezbollah action up by Lebanon. That could be pretty fun. Shawn, what do you guys do? What does your family do when it comes to vacations?
I look for usually two things: a sunny beach and old stuff. So for example, we took
you would get that
family trip.
You get a bunch
What's
of you go to Florida, you see these old shriveled people all over the beach. It's like some sort of they're like ambulatory raisins.
I feel like I can't react to most of what you say because I don't want to get canceled.
Who's coming after you? The AARP now? How dare you?
So back in June, we took the family on a vacation to DC. We'd never been to that area before. My middle son served his mission for the LDS Church in that area in Virginia and DC. And so we, met some of the people that he knew. We did all kinds of, as many Smithsonians and the mall and toured the Pentagon and the White House, all of those sorts of things. So loved that. And then tomorrow we actually take off for my wife's family reunion in Missouri because it's not hot enough here. So we want to go to Missouri, and that'll be mostly just on a lake. So that's more the sunny beach side. We'll just ski and float around. We'll go to a place down there. We'll be just outside Branson. There's a place there called Silver Dollar City that's a favorite of mine. It's sort of like redneck Disneyland.
Man, you stole my thunder. I was gonna make a Branson joke. I'm like, I know where you're going to Branson. So you're gonna take the Gold Bond medicated powder, right?
Yes. I mean, we'll be in the water a lot, so that helps. If it was more of a a hiking trip or something like that, and that kind of humidity, the Gold Bond powder is a necessity.
Yeah. So you got your beach bod ready?
Yeah. I mean, it's the same one I've had for 20 years.
Nice.
All right. Can I ask a question?
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Okay. All right. So on a slightly more serious topic, because we've hinted at the political climate in the world today, and I don't want to get into any sort of political party stuff, but my boss and I were having this conversation at lunch tomorrow, and what could really create some change in the way some of these systems work. And the two things that I settled on, and I'd be curious your thoughts on this, is number one, I realize it's a pipe dream that you could ever get something like this through Congress, but I would say no one can give to any political campaign except an individual, and there's a $2,500 limit. That's all you can do. And I would have everybody have term limits: 5 for a congressperson, 2 for a senator, and of course 2 for the president. That is where I would start. I would try to take the absurd amount of special interest money out of the system and say it's only a person with a social security number that can contribute to a campaign, and it's a tight limit. No PACs, no companies, nothing like that. And everybody's got to have term limits. What do you guys think?
I'm in pretty close agreement. Chris and I have talked about this kind of stuff a lot.
Yeah.
So I think businesses do have First Amendment rights, but I would put a cap. So I don't care if a business does; they just have to fully disclose, and it can't be millions and millions. It'd be some sort of that person would be. I'm really big in the way they do it in some ways over in Europe, where each candidate gets like 10 million euros, and that's it.
Mm-hmm.
It's public money. If you meet the requirement of a certain number of, what is it, Chris, signatories,
Something like that,
100,000 people or 500,000 people sign it so you can run, then you get, $1 million or 10, in the US, just for the sheer size, maybe it's 100 million, like whatever it is, but it's actual public money. Like nobody can donate to a candidate. It just is.
I'd be cool with that.
My opinion, you have to remove it. Term limits, 100%.
yeah.
Like 100%. Other thing too is absolutely no trading. If you're a senator or congressman or government, you can't trade in any stocks, bonds, businesses, any way, shape, or form in anything that you're on a committee or regulate at all.
Agreed.
No way in the world.
I mean, doesn't the president have to put it all in a blind trust? Like,
yes,
why shouldn't that be the case for everybody?
Agreed. Yeah. And then
legislature.
You can't jump into a job and get paid a dime in an industry that you regulated for at least 5 to 7 years. You cannot jump. Yeah, you're in the SEC and then you're jumping out to Goldman Sachs. I'm sorry, what? So that would be another thing. Also, all laws have to have sunset provisions attached to it. There can't be you pass a law to do something and there's no end to it. There's no actual hard review. And the other thing that I would do, which this would never happen, none of this stuff, unfortunately, we're talking about things going to happen, is like Warren Buffett talked about. The Congress's pay gets tied to whether they balance the budget or not. They can't just blow and spend money.
I heard that. I love it.
Because it would change. It would change everything like immediately. And the other thing I would do is I would create a flat tax with no exemptions. So if someone's poor, they don't pay the tax, but above 50,000, any below 40,000 for an individual, or below 80, 90,000 for a family, 100,000 or whatever it is, you don't really pay a tax. But everybody else, doesn't matter if you're super rich, whatever, you pay flat 15% with no deductions. But that would never happen in a million years either, because you could get rid of basically the entire IRS, because you wouldn't need it. You'd get rid of all accounting firms, law firms. The problem is it's same thing in healthcare. We see is there's so much money made in friction.
Yeah.
Massive amounts of
Yeah.
Hey, Chris, what There was a guy.
What's your take, Chris?
That's a great topic, Shawn. But Chris,
No, I completely agree. We need more limits, right? Everything from term limits to limits on how much they can participate directly in, in the economies of the decisions that they're making, right?
Yep.
But like you're saying, part of the impossibility of it all is that who's going to vote on that? The very legislators that we want to limit, right? And so maybe if they could do a vote where there's sort of a grandfather clause to where they enact the law, but it does not go into effect for 10 years or something like that. You know what I mean?
That's a great idea.
It doesn't affect them. They can vote on it and they can do whatever the heck they're doing now for the next 10 years or so. But then it goes into effect at that time as a real law with real enforcement. But yeah, I agree with it all. Everyone having to put they're investing into a blind trust, have a third party manage it, maybe allow them one or two conversations per year, just to, sort of a checkup and everything. But yeah, other than that, no contact, right? I mean, it is completely unfair advantage. It is corruption, right? No matter how much they want to paint it otherwise, it truly is. But at the same time, like we're talking about, I've known a few, like my local legislators. I know some of them. I've worked with some of them, right? And to a person, every single citizen I speak with says, "Oh yeah, term limits." Completely agree. Whereas every single legislator I've ever spoken with thinks that's a horrible idea, right?
Yeah,
it's just
you
such
don't
a complete disconnect.
You don't understand. Like it takes a long time to get going, and once I get elected and I get a lot more powerful, I can do a lot of things for, state of Utah. Like bull. Like they get so.
8, 10, or 12 years is plenty of time. In the
100%.
private sector, if it took us 8 years to learn our job, can you imagine?
Right.
And also time to vote on bills with full 100% transparency. Like this whole thing where, to get this thing passed that Maui needs to be taken care of, we also have to have 50 billion for Ukraine. No. 180 degrees from each other. Getting money to Maui for the horrible thing happened has nothing to do with the Ukraine. You cannot tie those together. And then the politicians can come out and say, well, hey, Senator Lee or Senator McCarthy, or I don't even care who it is, Senator Pelosi, Congressman Pelosi, rather, they don't care about the people in Maui. They're going against this bill. Said, well, Maui's one little tiny part of it. Like there's 50 billion for this and 10 billion for that and 8 billion for Taiwan or whatever. I mean, I'm becoming I was so hardcore Republican for so long, and I've been independent now for 14 years. And I've just become increasingly more libertarian, where I'm not the libertarians that are just crazy, where there's no rules, no laws, whatever, but I'm also the point where you want to legalize heroin? I think it's a catastrophically bad idea. Catastrophically bad idea. But you can allow me and mine and my church and whatever to do what we need to and not encumber us? Is that what it's going to take? Okay. I think it's awful, but if that's, and of course there isn't, that's kind of a mutual exclusivity paradigm, but I want us to have a super strong military, but I don't want us involved in so many things we're involved. We don't make anything better. You look at the Middle East is worse, much worse than it was 20 years ago. So it's
so Jeremy, you listed off a bunch of things at the beginning when we were having what would you prioritize if you really had a magic wand to change one thing? What would it be?
The most impossible, which means they have to balance a budget each year. That would from that would, so it would have a cascade effect.
Big effect.
You would have to cut waste. I mean, and then from cutting waste, you're going, okay, we got to cut that. We got to cut that. What do we have to keep? It's not that whole issue on, if you really want to make true changes in your life, you pick one or two big, massive things and ignore everything else. It's like talking to people about they're trying to lose weight. And I'm like, quit counting calories. Just two things people could do. Walk for 15 minutes after lunch and walk for 15 minutes after dinner. And then number two, don't eat after 7 o'clock. So that's it. You just did that. Slowly but surely things would happen. But
Yeah.
not everything has to be complicated. No, I gotta have
Yeah,
6 meals,
right.
I gotta do this, and I gotta touch that, and I gotta do that, and I gotta do 17 minutes on the elliptical and 82 minutes on that. So anything in life, honestly, with big important changes people need to make in life or businesses or whatever, it's you pick one or two or three things. The most, and you can only pick that. You can't, there is no, well, we'll do that too. It's amazing how laser focused you get in on what is the most important thing. There's a thing, you know the signal to noise ratio. It's the power of the signal divided by the power of the noise, or the strength of the noise. And the whole thing is a lot of times people will focus too much on the trying to increase the signal strength and was like, really, if you reduce the noise,
Yeah.
what is all the noise in your life that you have? Could be spiritually, could be within family, could be within relationships, could be in specific part of the job, could be in, I don't even know what it is.
Yeah.
What is all the noise that is happening? And when you remove the noise, you realize there's only a couple things that really have an impact on the signal strength.
Yeah, we need at least $1 trillion in spending cuts. We need it today. We needed it yesterday, but I'll take it in $100 billion increments over the next 10 years. Right.
100%.
I mean, that's what you're saying. That's the 15 minutes before, after lunch, and the 15 minutes after dinner. Let's take it in increments like that. Will it be painful to some? Yeah, but we're putting ourselves in tons of pain right now, and even more in the future going down the same road.
7 to 10 years from now, the US will go through self-imposed austerity measures we haven't seen since the 30s.
Yeah,
when it wasn't self-imposed.
exactly.
That whole thing is you're going to either act or be acted upon. We're at $36 trillion and adding $1 trillion every 6 months. Like it, and the modern monetary theory is, it's not just wrong, it's evil. It is dry. It is forcing us to not face brutal, horrible realities. Because at the end of the day, the big rocks, the big critical things is you have to pay it back. And all it takes is Japan and China to have their own liquidity crunch, and they start selling off all their debt they have in our bonds. We can't afford that as a country. We start defaulting a pretty, Social Security's gone. Anybody who's not already in their 70s and 80s, forget it. They're gonna loot Social Security. They have no option. They're gonna look for those areas with it, and they're gonna come after, like they do in other countries. Your 401k will be gutted and taxed by the government. They said they don't. They'll come get it.
They will.
They've done it in Canada. They've done it in places in Europe. They're coming for it. You think you're safe? You ain't safe.
So let's take that one step further. You know, Chris agreed on the spending cuts. The number one expense of the federal government is in healthcare. So where do we go there? How do we bring that cost down, and potentially, hopefully, have a ripple effect to private medicine as well?
I mean,
how do we do that?
This is more Jeremy's bag than mine, but things that come to mind that have worked in other places is, honestly, it sounds ironic, but you need to get the government out of it, right? Because where the government spends more in subsidies, the costs invariably always go up
and always outstrip inflation.
Exactly. And then on top of that, you got to increase the competition. There's got to be true price transparency. And I know with some complex things in healthcare, that's hard to get to, but with so many things that are routine, you should be able to get to that really quickly and allow people to shop.
Amen.
And I mean, we've got legitimized regional monopolies when it comes to, our health insurance and our payers and things such as that, right? You've got to open up that market. I should be able to go out like I do with car insurance and shop anywhere and find the best value for the dollar, right? Instead of saying your only options are these for the health insurance, right? Even though I know we've got health insurance that's, sometimes national and has reach everywhere, but at the same time, they are incentivized to maximize their own profit, right, over providing the best equitable care.
Isn't it interesting that intermediary? I'm not trying to call out any one company, but that intermediary, the payers, are one of the few industries that is incentivized not to provide the service we're paying them for.
Yeah.
It's such a strange and sad paradox.
Well,
and yet there's so much money in it.
Yeah, and there's so much money in friction. So like specialty hospitals, like a heart hospital, orthopedic hospital, cancer hospital, whatever, they're able to provide care at a higher quality at lower cost than your normal like conglomerate community hospital or health system. But they're blocked.
Okay.
The medical boards within a state will block it from happening because it hurts community hospitals because they can't make as much money.
Yeah.
Because if people are getting redirected, and so you're like, oh, well, we've got to keep these community hospital. And I always challenge it. I'm like, why? Well, people aren't going to get care. Really? Why not? Well, the hospital shut down. Will it? Or we'll have to just restructure. Why not have a lot more ambulatory? Like if you can go to an ambulatory surgery center, you're going. The last thing you want to do is go to a hospital. Hospitals, universally, that's worse than an airport in a lot of cases. It's an awful experience. You're mixing disease patients and chronic disease patients and highly infectious disease patients with surgical patients where you're cutting people open. What kind of banana world do we live in?
Yeah.
In manufacturing, you have complete separations of different part of the they're just mixing it all together in one open area, but they do it. And you don't have price transparency. So you're able to have health insurance monopolies in areas, provider healthcare, physician services, inpatient monopolies. You have all these incentivized for intermediaries where these health insurance companies are owning providers are owning health insurance companies. They kind of lock it down and they say, well, we're going to be able to improve this. But also the entire industry is not incented to prevent. Our entire industry is
exactly. That's where I was going to go next.
On treatments. There's way more money on treatment. So what it needs to be, like you've changed the incentive program to say, hey, the entire healthcare industry, you will only make money if you prevent. Like that's certainly there's cure because we're at rates, we're the least healthy by far. One of the least healthy countries by far in the world. We have enormous amounts of foods, et cetera, but we're wildly unhealthy. We have the highest rates of autism, highest rates of every kind of chronic disease you can think of, highest rates of neurological issues and emotional issues. Like we're just lapping the field. Like I've said for a long time, come from Canada, the US has the best of everything and absolutely the worst of everything.
Yeah, for sure.
Just in the middle. There's the happy medium. You're not going to find it here, right?
Do you think you both mentioned what I think is such a plausible starting point? Because I mean, it does affect somebody's bottom line, but that price transparency. You know, we've all read the articles of one of the most dramatic I saw was $8,000 compared to $30,000. Same procedure at two different locations. Like how that seems like a good place to start.
Yeah, it's a good place to start. I don't know how much it moves the needle when you look at the overall cost because you're still on what a payer is actually paying for, et cetera. And over time it just kind of gets normalized. You just have massive amounts of waste. You look at like a physician or a nurse only spends about 50-60% of the day actually providing care. They're having to document, they're having to do this stuff. And everybody thinks that regulation actually solves people, but Chris understands what the Laffer curve is. It's basically the curve of when you increase the tax rate, it gets to a certain point, and then you increase it too much, you actually reduce the number of revenue that you're actually getting for the government. And so in every industry or every segment, there's a Laffer curve. And so it's the clinicians are, so all this regulation, initially it's pretty good, but it never stops. That's the one problem. Once you get down that regulatory aspect, like at every possible point, you have to go, hang on a second, let's be safe. For example, we just had Heber Valley camp. First time they allowed boys to go up there. Normally it's a girls' camp, right? The Heber Valley, now they had boys. I didn't think it was a very good camp because the number of rules they have for boys, it just doesn't work. Can't ride bikes. Are you kidding me? Can't swim.
You can't. My wife and I have had this conversation.
You can't walk on the roads.
My gosh.
So to the boys, there's like all this they're scared. They're scared because the whole thing is don't get sued, don't get sued, don't get sued. And so the Laffer curve really goes from we're protecting, but now people don't want to come anymore. So we had a lot of boys go, never come. And we won't. Most of the leaders, stake presidency, I was talking with them, everybody else, and they're just saying, hey, the church leadership, like, yeah, this isn't really a thing. I guess it's good for girls. We're just going to lose too many of these young men and going to want to come to this kind of thing. So it's that you strike that balance on, oh, we're so safe. Like when I mountain bike, guys are like, oh man, I want to hit the jumps. I'm like, are you going to be okay with getting some stitches, maybe breaking a finger? No. Stay with the training wheels, bro. Like you can't. Like there's no such thing. If you want to have fun, there's going to be some risk to it. It's just that kind of thing. But and also the litigation industry in the US is out of control. Like you get the tip of your pinky cut off, somehow that you deserve $28 million. I'm sorry, there has to be an actuary price. Like, no, you don't get 28 million bucks because that just raised the cost for everybody else. Like that sucks. It's $1 million and or whatever else it is. But we've talked about before, there's just way too much friction, man. If you look at any industry, why something sucks, it's a lot of friction in it. Look at TSA. TSA doesn't keep anybody safer, but we're so scared of, well, this happened 9/11, we have to put this in place. Well, so freedom's getting encroached. My wife and daughters don't even like going through the airport anymore. Like it's such a horrible, it's pretty invasive experience now. Doesn't work. There's better ways to do it, but there's a lot of contractors that make a lot of money from those backscatter that you can hack through. Like if you go to Israel, they don't go nuts on all this stuff. They've got trained people that'll sit and interview you, and they can tell them in 5-minute chat whether you're a threat or not. And they don't have the same problems. People don't get through with knives, guns, or anything like they do here. But we have all this technology.
But you got into Israel, so that doesn't add up.
Well, but I mean, look, I look like the perfect Israeli, right? With my Aryan pastiness and ability to reflect light to Neptune. So what else, guy? We only got a couple minutes left. Any good books? Any TV? I know Shawn's super into The Acolyte. I think he's one of the only people in the world that actually likes the show, so it's kind of interesting.
Yeah, I've liked it. I haven't watched the most recent episode. I'm gonna catch that on the flight tomorrow. Yeah, I just finished a couple of months ago. I finished John Adams. I love. I'm a big McCullough fan.
Oh yeah,
and
I think that's his best book. I've tried reading.
That is an excellent read.
I started with John Adams, and he just hasn't done as good with the other ones. So I started.
Oh yeah.
I started with Washington one, some others, and I stopped like a couple chapters in. But
yeah, I didn't like his Teddy Roosevelt book, but all the others that I've read, especially 1776, I thought was really good. He did a great Truman and
I read that one.
Wright brothers. I liked all those. Yeah, so I had to, after reading John Adams, I had to go back and get a Thomas Jefferson biography because I'm like, could Thomas Jefferson really have been as big of a jerk as that book made him sound? Remarkable man, accomplished a great deal. But it's interesting when you see how divisive politics are today, and you realize, well, it actually wasn't that different back then.
Yeah,
the tactics were different.
The election of 1800 was legendary for how bad it was. Still legendary.
I'm gonna fund a newspaper, and I'm gonna print all sorts of awful things about my opponent under a pseudonym. You know, so it's not Twitter, but it's a different
same thought.
Yeah, but to that point, I think John Haidt and some other ones talked about it. The issue with social media now, because we have so much access to everything that goes on, we fool ourselves. And again, this is why everyone needs to do research and calm down when they see a headline or something and actually go look around. Is like we see a cop shooting, or we see some poultry farm go up in flames, and because now everyone can hear about it around the world, you think that oh my gosh, the number of incidents of X is so much higher. But when you look at crime statistics, FBI statistics, labor statistics, it isn't.
Yeah.
But our brains, we can't help it because we get saturated with every bit of news that, especially where it's negative or salacious, we can get immediately. Well, you didn't get it before. Like when
Right.
someone got shot, like when I grew up in Canada, if someone got shot in Vancouver, I wouldn't hear about it in Alberta. It wouldn't even make any, because you wouldn't. It had zero to do with what you do now. But now it's like, oh, hang on a second. Something going on in Miami, I hear about it in Utah. Something going on in Detroit, Chicago, all this kind of stuff going on. So we look at it, and it unfortunately becomes a self-fulfilling prophecy. We start to change our behavior and act in a certain way and vote in a certain way that's based on 100% artificially magnified perception rather than, okay, what's actually happening? Go look at the data and go, oh, okay, it isn't. It isn't anywhere near the way it's being portrayed. And that's, so if I look at social media from a net perspective, I have to say it's a net negative.
It certainly feels that way, doesn't it? And unfortunately, we've reached a tipping point where I don't even know that the data matters anymore.
It doesn't.
I mean, it matters to people, matters to individuals, but in terms of a story or a narrative, it doesn't seem to matter.
No, it doesn't. We've definitely passed that. We're past a point of no return, right? So anything else we should have covered that we didn't cover? I mean, we'll do this again. This is too much fun. Like I have to be
for sure.
I have to be too serious with everyone else I have on here.
Well, I was really hoping that we would get into a little more of I don't know, some of the awkward things that you two accomplished back in your heyday at our mutual employer.
We are, because we have so many. We're gonna have to use pseudonyms. So Heffy, Boaz, and some other. We're just gonna have to have such good. I mean,
Hey, just putting it in another language is not a pseudonym, Jeremy.
it pretty much is. Given how people can't even speak English half the time, let alone some sort of pseudo other language.
So maybe next time we can get a little taste of that.
Oh, we're gonna have more than a little taste. we are gonna absolutely put the proverbial shredded lettuce in the burrito.
Absolutely.
We also didn't get to talk about our mutual hatred of business books.
Yes.
I would love to touch on that, and how we've all had employers that love to take a certain book written by some yahoo that's been in business for 3 years and treat it as the gospel truth.
And we never did write our book. That's our coffee table book about coffee tables, so to speak.
Exactly right. Exactly right. Yeah.
All right, let's
That's still a brilliant idea.
It's gonna happen one of these days because Shawn's the writer. I mean, I don't know why it's like I'm not a writer marketing person. Shawn.
Yes, happy to. You guys were always the idea guys.
Yeah, bad idea.
Yeah.
All right, gentlemen, let's do this. I don't know, another couple months.
Yeah, sounds great.
Safe travels, Shawn.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot. Take care.